to meet your family, sweetheart.
It, Welcome to Derry is set to return with Season 2 in the not-too-distant future, and in doing so, it'll be traveling further into the past. While the show won't be back until late 2027 at the earliest, that doesn't mean there's not plenty to dig into prior to Derry's much-anticipated second act. Chief amongst our pile of topics is the Bradley Gang Massacre and how it could very well change Pennywise as we know him. So, let's delve through how this could potentially go down.
What's the matter? Do I have face on my face?
First, we have to go back to the past a bit. The future? Well, the past as recalled in the future of the past. This timeline is wild. All right, stay with me here. You get two major flashbacks in Welcome to Derry, in 1908 and 1935, both of which are also years wherein Pennywise, or It, returns to feed on the population of Derry, Maine. You'll recall that Pennywise's feeding cycle takes place every 27 years. These dates are also strictly for the show and the movie timelines, not the book timeline, which is completely different. We're not going to go into that. For the sake of Welcome to Derry, you really just need to remember three major dates: 1908, 1935, and 1962, as those are the dates each season of the show is concerned with in reverse order. Season 1 took place in 62, while Season 2 is set to take place in 1935, and Season 3 is presumably set for 1908, though who knows whether the Muschiettis who are in charge will throw a twist or two in there to subvert those expectations. Considering the Beverly Marsh cameo at the end of Season 1, there's certainly a chance we could get some form of return to that summer of 1989 that was depicted in It Chapter 1. Anything is possible with this weird, time-bending show. For now, however, what we've been told is that Season 2 will center on the Bradley Gang Massacre in 1935, while 3 will take us back to the Kitchener Ironworks explosion, both events that we see in the opening credits for Welcome to Derry. Anyway, we see through flashbacks in Season 1 that Bob Gray is but a simple clown named Pennywise in 1908, the same year as the aforementioned Ironworks disaster. This is also the same year that Francis Shaw, then a child, meets and befriends Rose, whom he would briefly reunite with in 1962 before, getting his noggin noshed by old Pennywise. Vis-a-vis, it's reasonable to assume that we could see more of Francis Shaw and Rose in Season 2, seeing as they would each be in their late 30s in 1935. Technically, Shaw doesn't regain his memories of that 1908 summer's events until the 50s, but again, anything's possible. At the very least, I'd be shocked if Rose doesn't make an appearance given her proximity to the events. In fact, we're likely to see younger versions of many of the Native Americans seen in the show, and perhaps we'll get more ideas as to how they handle Pennywise's feeding cycle. Spoilers, they ain't stopping it. I also suspect we'll get a younger version of Police Chief Clint Bowers, who plays a small part in Season 1. He'd go on to be the grandfather of Henry Bowers, and I could definitely see him taking the place of Chief Sullivan or Officer Nell, neither of whom, as far as I recall, have been mentioned in the Muschietti versions of events. They are, however, in the book, and at least one of them appears in the It miniseries. Anyway, as far as who won't be coming back, well, that's a tough nut to crack, because again, this is a show that, in its final episode, explored some very timey-wimey wibbly-wobbly junk. If you're hazy on the details, basically, it's revealed that Marge, who is initially just sort of a side friend character, is actually the mother of Richie Tozier, who will go on to defeat Pennywise, with the help of his friends. This is something that Pennywise himself knows due to the whole being an interdimensional being thing. He doesn't perceive time like a human, and even gets confused by events in the past and future. This is why it's hard to say who exactly will come back, though I think for now it's safe to assume that our child heroes from Season 1 have completed their time on this particular program, assuming we don't take a jaunt into the future, of course. But hey, the important thing here is Pennywise himself and how Season 2 could shed more light on how he interacts with the world. Pennywise's actions during Season 2 will hinge on the human events that he participates in, though in what form exactly we're not entirely sure. In the book, the story goes that the Bradley Gang Massacre occurs 13 months before the Black Spot is burned down, something that, as we've discussed, is now 26 years removed from those events. The incident is witnessed by a Mr. Norbert Keene, Keen, a nice name by the way, my guy, who basically explains that the Bradley gang came to Derry to hide out due to the small town being so far away from their crimes in the Midwest. There they lay low, but decide they should go hunting, but they're low on ammo, so they hit up Lal Machin's sporting goods store to buy bullets, but discover that he has to order more to facilitate their needs, so they have to come back the day after next for the rest. The Bradley gang, seemingly intent on making terrible choices, agree to return later. Meanwhile, Lal Machin, well, he just can't keep his mouth shut about them there Bradley gang boys. Of course, they've been sold out. The men of Derry get together and decide on good old-fashioned vigilante justice. It's not specified whether this is all done independently or through the raising of a posse, but either way, they hide with guns ready around Lal's store and wait for the gang to return. When the gang's 2 cars pull up, Lal orders Al Bradley to put his hands up before preemptively firing on him and hitting Al in the shoulder. From there, around 50 or 60 men begin firing in unison, tearing the Bradley gang apart, including 2 women, one of whom tries to surrender but winds up killed in crossfire. When Mike Hanlon later asks the elderly Mr. Keen about how the incident was covered up, Keen administers some cold logic. It was a group of outlaws, and the murdered women were all whores. Add to that, Derry is a small town, somewhere where these things just kind of fall into the cracks of history. All in all, the massacre is said to have only taken 5 to 6 minutes. There's a smidge bit more to it than that, but really, that's the whole story. Hence why there's so many questions about season 2. Sure, it's probably going to only be 8 episodes, but out of those 8, we really can't expect more than 1 episode to cover the massacre itself, much in the same way that the Black Spot incident is only really shown in 1 episode of season 1. So then, what are we looking at in terms of overarching plot? And what exactly will this teach us about Pennywise? Per Keen's recollection, there was a clown present at the massacre, firing with a different weapon based on different men's recollections, and according to another man, the clown didn't cast a shadow. So yeah, Pennywise is definitely there, and it would stand to reason that elements of the shooting were caused by the fear injected into the populace by Pennywise. But what if there's more to it than that? The first season, of course, follows a bunch of kids being haunted by the titular killer interdimensional clown, and it stands to reason that we'll get more of the same dynamic in season 2. In the book, Mike postulates that the massacre woke up Pennywise, in turn leading to the fire at the Black Spot. While Pennywise, as mentioned, was supposedly present for the massacre, it doesn't seem as though he was directly responsible. Instead, the massacre is meant to remind readers that Derry has its own issues and that there is a darkness harbored beneath the town's folksy facade. With it now taking place during the previous cycle, that concept seems to have been thrown out, or at least slightly rejiggered, to place more emphasis on Pennywise's involvement. So, what do we take away from this? Well, my guess is that we'll be introduced to more ancestors of the Losers Club, and that Pennywise's actions will center on his revenge for his future death, which, that part's kind of obvious. Andy Muschietti even said as much, explaining that, quote, there's a family tree that appears within the show. The massacre itself likely will be the big feeding frenzy that Pennywise typically digs into at the end of a given cycle. However, if we're looking at a more book-accurate interpretation of the Bradley Gang Massacre, then that event could go down as early as the first episode, thereby launching a Depression-era plot that even your humble YouTube speculation man can't possibly guess the specifics to. Again, based on what Muschietti has said, we know that the characters are in for a more miserable status quo, as the Great Depression will be a major factor in how they live their lives. If the Bradley Gang shootout happens later in the season, then I suspect we'll get plenty of time to get to know the members of the gang and their backstories. Hell, perhaps it's a member of the gang who gets to know someone in Derry on a very personal level, thereby resulting in part of that aforementioned family tree. It would make sense and give some credence to Pennywise's actions in coordinating the massacre. Perhaps there's a little more planning that goes into his actions than we've seen previously. The big point here is that we're definitely going to learn more about Pennywise, but what exactly the Muschiettis have up their sleeves is anyone's guess. I sure as heck don't know. What do you think is going to happen? Got any theories you want to share? Head on down to the comments and let me know. And oh, thanks for watching ScreenRant.